Hi, my name's Andy Ebbs. I'm a solution consultant at OpenText. I specialize in high availability and disaster recovery, and I'm going to be showing you how to install Carbonite Migrate onto a Linux environment, in this case Ubuntu, and that machine will be running in Exoscale Cloud. I'll then be using that machine in an upcoming video on how to migrate from VMware ESX to Exoscale. I've done similar videos for Exoscale as well, with a recent one from Azure to Exoscale, but we can also be used to go to GCP or GCP to Exoscale or any different combination you might have. To start off with, I'm going to go to exoscale.com. I'm going to log in, confirm my credentials, and you can see a machine in here already, which is for Windows 19. Exoscale, I used this one in a recent demo, which was Azure to Exoscale for a Windows server. You'll find that online as well. I'm going to click Add to create my Ubuntu machine. I'll just give it a quick name. Spell it right. It doesn't really matter what I spell it right, actually, because the name is just the name that's going to appear in as a virtual machine name, but it will create a host name. That host name is just really temporary because we are going to overwrite it when we do a failover into this environment. I'm going to choose Ubuntu 2004 because that's what I'm using on my source environment. We need the major and minor version to be matching, and I'll leave it with the default zone, default medium machine, although I could probably use a small, and I'll just give it a bit more disk just to make sure I have plenty of space to be working with. That machine's going to get spun up. It'll just take it a few seconds. The other thing I've done is I've created some security groups. I'm just using the default security group rather, but I've added some rules in here. So I've added a few in already. This one I added for the Windows machine, so 6320 through 6325. I actually only need 6320, 6325, and 6326. And in fact, for Linux today, we actually only need 6325 and 6326. That's for management and the web API stuff that we're doing. We need TCP IP for and UDP for those two as well, but we also need SSH as well, so that's TCP 22 for that one. And I've also added some ports for the replication part of the Carbonite Migrate, which uses ports 1500, 1501, 1505, and 1506. Again, I've added a range, being a bit lazy. We didn't need the ones in the middle. Again, I need those for TCP and UDP, so those ports should cover everything. Right, the next thing is go back to instances, and we can see the Ubuntu machine has now been created and it's running, but we need a password. The easiest way I found to do that is just quickly stop the machine, and then once it's stopped, it will let me click this reset password button. Usually just takes a few seconds for the machine to shut down. So click reset password. That will create a new password for us, and we can click to start the machine back up again. Now it's given us the command there to use to connect to SSH, so I'll just copy that. I'm running on a Windows machine. I'm going to use PowerShell. I'm just going to use the command there, quite like the built-in SSH that PowerShell has these days. And I just need to confirm that I recognize the machine. And then I need the password, which has just been saved here. So it's just at the moment, it's just some random characters. So we'll add those in. First thing I'll do is just change the password so that I have one that I recognize a bit more easily. Oops, the current password rather than the one I want to change it to. So I'm going to be using that a few times so it's easier to have something I remember. Now that the password's changed, we need to just make sure that the machine is going to be compatible. So you can check what release of Linux you have on a machine by using this command. And this is going to be important because we'll need to know whether you're using, Ubuntu and the major and minor version. You also see the service pack level, so you can check in the user guide whether we've tested that. If you're using Red Hat or CentOS or something, you'd have slightly different settings here. But again, that allows you to check what I have on my source is going to match what's on my target. We now need to just update to the latest version of everything. So we're going to go update, make sure the package is up to date. So we'll use apt and update. Collect to the repositories and find out what's available. And there's only 9 packages to update, so we're going to let that take place. Upgrade. I'll just take a few seconds while that happens. Okay, now we need to add a couple of additional packages that are going to be used by Carbonite Migrate. So we're going to use apt again, we're going to use install, and we need to add make, lsb, and unzip. There's a few different bits and pieces getting downloaded here, so it will take it a few seconds, probably a minute or two, just to make sure that's all installed. Okay, now that that's installed, we can download the software that we're going to be using. So we can have a quick look at what we need. We're going to use wget, and then we need the path of the download file. Now you can actually use the push installer from the Windows client console. It doesn't really make much sense when you're working with the cloud. You might as well be downloading it directly from wherever it's stored. And we have a download site. So if you go to support.doubletake.com, just log in with some credentials, should get those when you get trial licenses or full licenses of our software. And then you can go to products and you can choose Migrate for Linux. And there's a few different downloads, but the one we want is the zip file here. The other ones are sort of custom drivers and an appliance if you're using an ESX target environment. So we're going to use that one. What I like to do is, as a tip, is if you go to Chrome, you can see the downloads. You can see the download started there. If you look at full download history, you can actually cancel that job. And there is actually the link here. So I can just copy the link address. And then if I go back to my PowerShell SSH connection, I can just paste that in. And it will just paste in the correct link to the latest version of the software. Now, it normally takes a couple of minutes for this to download. But it's going to be copying it from the US to France or Germany. I'm not quite sure exactly where that data center is, but you'd be able to, have a local copy if you want to make things faster, or you could just however you want to get the file on there. It's up to you. Okay, so the download is completed. We can see the zip file there. We need to extract that now, so we'll unzip to extract that file. Note that it's capitalized. And it's going to create a couple of directories. x64 is where the latest version of the software is. We did do a 32-bit version in the distant past, so some of the older versions will have that more stuff in there. But we're going to change into that directory, the x64 one. And we can then see that there are various different RPM for Red Hat type environments, so CentOS and SUSE and Rocky Linux and so on. But we're going to be using the Debian one for Ubuntu environments. So we're going to run sudo because we need to have pretty low level access to the environment to be able to install our various different agents and filter drivers and so on. And we want to use the Debian package manager, and we want to install, and then we just want the Debian file there. You'd use the RPM-I instead for if you're trying to install the RPM files on a Red Hat type environment. So this doesn't take it long just to unpack those bits and install the bits and pieces. The next thing is we need to run a utility on here to actually activate the services. So we're going to go to, again, sudo, and we want to run an application called DT Setup. Now note that it is capitalized plus 3 letters, DTS. It won't work unless you have those. Then we need to accept a license agreement. Obviously read that thoroughly. And at the end of it, you can click Q to quit, but you need to type yes to accept it. It has to be in capitals as well. We're going to do a couple of setup tasks. So the first one is going to setup tasks and go to add remove users. And at the moment, it's configured so that only administrators in root can actually do anything. Now, normally in most environments, you might want to have a user who has those privileges to install the agent, which is what we've just done. But then somebody with less privilege is going to actually be able to manage the actual job. So the person who's going to control this needs to be added to this. And we're going to use Ubuntu. That's the user that's default set up in this environment. So, oops, I need to choose add a user first, so option 1, and then add Ubuntu. So you should see now that root and Ubuntu have been given permission to administer double take jobs. You can also see there's a monitors one here. If you wanted somebody who just wants to be able to see what's going on, track how the migration's going, look for errors and so on, you could add them to the monitors group. They wouldn't be able to change anything then, or trigger failovers, etc. We're going to quit out of this menu, quit down again, and then we're back onto the original master menu. And this time we're going to choose to start and stop the double take daemon. That is option 1. And it will just take it a few seconds while the drivers are implemented and started. So you can see that there are that the service is loaded and it's running, and we've got the filter drivers and so on there. So we can now, once we've done that part, we can usually just quit out of here back to the command line. I also need to make sure that the firewall is configured correctly. Now I could just disable it, which in fact I'll do just to show that it's, how this is all set up. So we're going to sudo universal firewall disable. Obviously not the best of security practices, but that's now stopped it. But what we can see is if I open the Carbonite replication console, so this is where you'd manage everything. This is a Windows client that you run on your laptop, but it could be on a virtual machine somewhere in your environment. You need to be able to connect to the machine using those ports we were talking about before. But if I add a new server, I can add in the IP address of this machine. Now, I should probably have that in my saved copy thing, but it's easier just to go back to Exoscale here and just copy the IP address. So we'll just add that in there. Hasn't used it. Let's just check. Did I copy it properly? Copied. Try again. There we go. And the username is going to be Ubuntu. And then we want the password. Remember, I changed it to something I could remember. And then click add. So you see the machine's been added. It's polling it, and it's all working. Now, obviously, at the moment, it's working without any passwords, and that's it. It's ready to use as a target. Just for completeness, I just wanted to show you the lines that I would use to lock it down a bit more in a for network security and so on. And the tools I do use to do that is I would enable the firewall, enable, and then we also want to add in SSH. So that's a rule for that. And then I've got a couple of custom rules that I've created. I'm just going to copy them because they're quite long, which has got the different ports on it. So these are the ports that we're going to use in 1500, 1501, 1505, 1506, 6325, and 6326. So that will basically open those ports for TCP, but we need to do the same line again, but this time for UDP as well. So it's UDP in this line as well. We can then have a look at the rules that have been set by firewall just to double check that they all look correct. And we can see those ports are allowing in and from anywhere as well. So I'm sure you can lock these down a lot more securely depending on your environment and your company's security things. But as you can see, those ports are all sorted now, and the machine is in here, and it's ready now to be used as a migration target. So I'm going to leave it here in this video. If you keep an eye open, I will be dropping a video on how to use this target machine. Then I'll probably create a job from this Ubuntu ESX source machine, which is running in an ESX environment, to this new target machine that we've just provisioned and created today. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully it's useful. If you have any questions, please give me a shout. I like to put just in the end of it my email address so you can contact me, which is just aabs@opentext.com. Okay, thank you very much.